Why, hello there! Welcome to my very own cruise ship, the SS Dolphin 3. The third? I'm going with 3. Here, let me show you around. And here we have Louie's kitchen. It can get pretty dangerous around here, so it's probably best we don't disturb the master at work. Yeah, okay, let's keep going. And here we have my team of researchers. They're currently trying to discover any legitimate merit to bringing reds in Pikmin 2. Ooh, it seems like they got something. Oh, interesting. The Doomsday apparatus doesn't make red Pikmin more useful. Who'da thunk it? Oh, but speaking of Pikmin types who deserve better, you're probably here because you want to learn how best utilize blue Pikmin, isn't that right? Well, you've come to the right place. Welcome to Dandori Database, a series where I talk about everything I can about the Pikmin games, all in an effort to analyze the series design to help you improve your Dandori output. And today we're here to take a look at a very unappreciated... Frick! Found in the forest navel, blue Pikmin do one thing, not drown. As such, if there's water, blues are required. And if there isn't water, since they don't do anything else, you shouldn't bring blues. That's it. That's how you use blue Pikmin. They're immune to water, so use them whenever there's water. Cut and dry. Cut and wet? Their use cases are never any deeper than the shallow end of a kiddie pool, especially when compared to the beastly depths a type like purples achieve. Ugh, I'm scared to go down there. But this excessive simplicity and general requirement is what I think makes blue Pikmin fun. A lot of people criticize blues for being the required type, keys to a lock. Like, putting a ship part in water isn't a challenge, it's not a puzzle, it's just annoying and it requires blue Pikmin. And outside of being required, blues have nothing else. On paper, this sounds like an absolute travesty of a type. But like I've always said, these games are designed for Dandori. Within the context of multitasking and optimizing, blue Pikmin fulfill a really cool role. They take up space. And since you have a 100 Pikmin field limit, needing a bunch of blues to deal with a bucket loads of water creates a caveat you need to account for if you want to achieve your maximum Dandori ability. And what also helps make this fun is the fact that blues aren't a bad type. Sure, they're the top contender for my objectively worst Pikmin list, but that's not because they're an active detriment to your squad. They're just excessively basic, even more so than reds. The biggest and frankly only downside to taking a blue Pikmin is that it gives you less space to take more useful types. But because they're still required in large amounts, you need to fill your army with them. This creates the defining dynamic of the blue Pikmin, balancing between the type you want and the type you need. And 20 yellow Pikmin. I said in previous videos that this was the identity of Pikmin 1, but I've grown to realize that's an identity that primarily exists in the context of blue Pikmin, so yeah, I take that back. That's the blue Pikmin identity. Which is also why I mostly attach it to the distant spring, thanks to its absurd amounts of water and spotty bulbears. So you may be asking, what's the optimal number of blue Pikmin taken to the distant spring? Oh, I won't be real with you, Pikmin 1 is probably my worst Pikmin game. In a skill context, I consider myself far more knowledgeable on 2, 3, and 4. But with that said, I don't need to tell you what the optimal blue combo is. That's half the fun. Get out there and practice your Dandori. With that said though, I do have some handy dandy tips that can help you along the journey. First off, blue Pikmin are not needed whatsoever for the Forest of Hope. Well, they do absolutely help out. None of the parts here are actually in water. And for the 3 stuck past it, well, the Geiger counter's box can be pushed by throwing Pikmin on top and swarming them off. The Sagittarius's bridge can be built by whistling drowning Pikmin across water. And the radiation canopy's wall can be destroyed with 2 well-placed bomb rocks, prompting the yellows to either chuck the bombs or drop them on top. Whether these skips are intentional or not is debatable, especially since the newer version's control differences make performing them substantially easier. But also, who freaking cares? This is the exact reason the stage can be done in a single day. Not easily, but it's possible. Secondly, the anti-dioxin filter. This ship part requires 40 blues, thanks to being slap dab in the middle of a lake. I guess with Pikmin scaling, it's more of a puddle? As it's a heavy part in the same area you discover blues, trying to grow your numbers to carry it is not an easy feat. Especially if you're trying to do this area in a single day. I mean, otherwise you can just take a pit stop at the impact site and grow more Pikmin than you'd ever need for multiple lifetimes. But if you do need blues fast, Shearwigs are your friends. When they're dead, these things give 4 Pikmin each, which really adds up due to their swarminess. And once you have enough blues to start collecting the part, instead of fighting the stupid freaking frogs, preemptively lure them away and keep them distracted. Saves you quite the headache. And finally, I lied this entire time. Blues have a super secret, super useful ability. They can save drowning Pikmin. Notable for being the objectively second funniest thing in the game, right behind Olimar being canonically scammed. You know, this isn't as funny as I remembered. Actually, wow, their lifeguarding sucks in this game. Their throws are pitiful, they constantly get stuck, and half the time they can't even save every Pikmin. I guess this ability can be useful in a scenario where a ledge is too high for a Pikmin to swim up normally, but like, there's also the fact that if you're in a situation where mass lifeguarding is going to be useful, you're probably about to reset the day anyways. So in summary, the excessive basicness of blue Pikmin serves as a challenge you need to overcome, and is probably the single best example to how Pikmin types aren't really meant to be designed equally. In this case, the weakness of the type serves as a complication you need to work around. And it's a weakness that can only arise if you actually need to use the type. Because at the end of the day, you use blue Pikmin whenever there's water. Any questions? Alright then, I'm just gonna continue to hammer in my point with Pikmin 2. Blue Pikmin are the final type you find in the Awakening Wood, and they fulfill the exact same role they do in Pikmin 1. Immune to water, saves drowning Pikmin, dies first. While most attacks in this game are capable of killing your entire army in one fell swoop, eating has a cap. So if we give this Bulbor a nice hearty meal, no matter how many Pikmin it actually bites, it can only grab 5. And as I hope you can see, it's not random which 5 it grabs. But wait, aren't blues supposed to be the ones dying? Why is it targeting yellows next? Well, it's because enemies prioritize Pikmin who were spawned first. So the reason the Bulwarp's starting with purples and pivoting to yellows is because that's the order I pulled them out. If I had to guess, this is happening because the game keeps track of every active Pikmin in one big list, with newly spawned Pikmin being appended to the bottom. So when the Bulbor bites 30 at once, the 5 at the top are the ones who go. So how does this tie back into blues? Caves. Every time you enter, progress, or leave a cave, the game has to respawn your entire army and make a new list. And when spawning every Pikmin at the same time, it follows the order of the Pikmin IDs. And of the 7 types in the game, well, one of them's gotta be first. This basically means anytime you see a loading screen, your current army is being rearranged to place blues at the top of Death's Row. And while that barely matters for most enemies, blues are now more appetizing than their contemporaries. This is definitely more of a fun fact than anything actually useful, but blues' proneness to death can be utilized. Heck, it's my strategy when I fight the pileated Snagrit. This thing will literally jump through hoops to avoid killing the types I actually want, just to grab a delectable blue Pikmin. But outside of this, since purples kill faster than Bulbarbs can eat, sacrificing Pikmin isn't usually the best game plan. Going back to the Pikmin IDs, by the way, those of you who are vividly familiar with Pikmin 2 might also recognize this as the order you swap between held Pikmin types. Also, yes, the Pick carrots in the Piklopedia are actually recognized as a Pikmin type. They don't crash the game, their leaves are permanent even if they grow a flower, and functionally, they're more basic than blues. This is awesome. So class, that's why you're all going to die before your friends. Wait, what are we talking about? Oh, that's right. You suck! and I love you for that. As I said before, blue Pikmin taking up space can only matter if there's a reason taking space is bad. And in addition to the 100 Pikmin limit, Pikmin 1's focus on time is this reason. Multitasking is absurdly important, and to do it effectively, you need to take your blues alongside your reds. But Pikmin 2 doesn't really focus on the Dandori angle as much, instead opting for the dungeon crawler gameplay of caves. Caves that heavily limit your Pikmin production when you enter them. Caves with sublevels that have water, meaning you need to use blues. Pikmin 2 continues to use blue Pikmin amazingly. It's honestly so cool how their space-taking purpose ties in super well with Pikmin 2's goals, and it still requires the balancing act of taking the types you want and the type you need. Like, they're initially used as a progression blocker, preventing you from accessing most of the game's hardest parts until you have every Pikmin type. You know, since they're the final type you discover again. And if you care about the day counter in this game, the whole distant spring-esque decision making between Pikmin types comes into play again during the perplexing pool, which makes a lot of sense when I say that out loud. But when it comes to caves, well, the more blues you take, the less spots become available for the other types. But the less you dedicate to water, the more you place yourself at risk of suffering in water-based sublevels. Opportunity cost. The term I'm thinking of is opportunity cost. Not every cave actually has water in it, but by the time you have blues, your waterless options really boil down to the Bulbfish Kingdom technically, don't worry about it, the Subterranean Complex, and I guess Glutton's Kitchen if you didn't do that when grabbing yellows. And since this leaves every cave that matters, bringing blues is always a good idea. Water is the only hazard that can't be removed, and since it's often full on blocks carry routes, you can't forego blues in the same way you can forego reds or yellows. You can forego them in a different way. Because caves are pseudo-randomly generated, it's entirely possible that not a single treasure actually spawns past water, rendering the hazard completely irrelevant just because you got lucky. Let me say that again. While you can outskill fire and electricity, you can outluck water. You can ditch your reds and yellows by getting good at the game, but who needs blues when I just pulled a royal flush? While this is cool and all, bringing blues into the cave is definitely far safer. Relying that heavily on RNG is never a good idea. But on the other hand, while I might have already gambled all my money away, I got a good feeling about this next one. But ignoring the potential of becoming a Pikmin 2 slot jockey, water being such a hard and fast obstacle is what makes you actually require blues. If the base hazard was at all weaker, like fire is, it'd easily fall to the wayside. I mean, look at the water enemies. All we got is the Caustic Dweevil, the Watery Blowhog, and the Water Jump. Dude, having water in your name doesn't make you a water enemy, okay? Get out of here. Alright. These two literally don't matter. The only notable thing about them is that they don't share the same adjective this time. Heck, the Dweevil even wound up changing its name. Good for them. So while water itself is still the reason you need blues, most of the time you can just kind of walk through it. You might need to throw your Pikmin in the puddles particularly large, but once they're in, just keep whistling them and any Pikmin can schmoove right on through. Yes, this does mean yellow Pikmin going swimming is optimal. But since you do need blues to carry, you can't keep giving your army near-death experiences forever. So when I bring blues into a cave, I usually take 20, since that's the heaviest water treasures get, and I'm confident in my ability to keep them alive. If you do lose too many blues, including to things like making more purple Pikmin, I should probably be bringing more blues in. Bullmen, as well as Queen and Lapis Lazuli Candy Pop Buds, usually spawn on or before water-focused sublevels, except in the Cavern of Chaos and Dream Den. Freaking Dream Den sublevel 10. Oh, frick. Dream Den sublevel 10. Stump Room, full of water, Gatling Groik. Pro tip, we love Bitter Spray. Or, you know, bring more than 20 blues, that works too. Oh yeah, and speaking of Bulbmen, you'd think there'd be merit to emit blues because of them, but no. Bulbmen are a straight upgrade, considering they're immune to every hazard, not just water. but their limited numbers and the fact you find them as leaf Pikmin makes it far better just to take some pre-flowered blues in. Not to mention, they only show up in 3 caves: the Frontier Cavern, Submerged Castle, and Hole of Heroes. And they appear after a water sublevel in that last one. Bulbin also can't lifeguard, but as we've established, that really doesn't matter. Except for the fact it was buffed this game. Wow, was it buffed! Look at how far they throw! It's so good! Blues can use other Pikmin to crush dwarf Bulborbs. Is this why their up throw is so strong? Heck, even their grab range was significantly increased. I mean, this blue band should grab a white Pikmin through a bridge to save their life. Holy frick. Oh, and also this clip on my Switch I've been dying to show off, so sorry for the low quality. Okay, Cavern of Chaos sublevel 9. This careening Darigi bug chucked a bomb at the ship, and I was worried that my Pikmin were just gonna walk straight into it. However, thanks to some niche information I stumbled upon years ago, I learned that Pikmin who blow up and land in water will prioritize drowning over dying. So in a panic, I called every Pikmin into the water and dismissed my blues to lifeguard them all. I didn't lose a single Pikmin this sublevel, what the frick? And lastly, I think I'd be doing a massive disservice if I didn't bring up the Submerged Castle, one of the coolest things in any game ever. A cave that can only be accessed by blue Pikmin, contains every hazard, and the Water Wraith. Pivoting back to the whole blue Pikmin basic point, the fact you're forced to exclusively use the most helpless type in the most treacherous environment is a large part of what makes this cave so awesome. It's the best example of the game being better by blue Pikmin being bad. Plus, it gives Bulbmin their best use. They're only better than blues by a smidge, and with their limited numbers, their inclusion still leaves you incredibly helpless. This lack of solid tools is a core part of the castle's overwhelming feeling of dread. All that's between you and the Water Wraith's eventual arrival are your basic freaking Pikmin and Dandori ability. But when you finally reach that last sublevel, what do you get? Purple Pikmin. The type that's so stupidly strong, such a valiant safety net, that having even a single one in your army lets you deal with the strongest foes, including the multi-dimensional Bubble Buddy on wheels. Do you get what I'm saying? I genuinely hope I've made myself clear so far. Blue Pikmin being bad is an overall good for the game, and they're best utilized when their excessive basicness is something you need to work around. Whether it's managing your types or managing your time, the first 2 games understood the point of blue Pikmin and utilized them to a great extent. Of course, they also recognize the #1 rule about quote-unquote bad types. If there's no reason to pull them out, then you're never going to pull them out. This is a Pikmin 3 call-out post! Pikmin 3 Blues are a type I've commonly heard referred to as the worst type in the game, and that's a take I wholeheartedly disagree with. Not just because I think Freds from 2 are worse, but because the whole concept of ranking Pikmin types just gets more muddied the deeper you get into it. Like, these things are meant to be puzzle pieces in the context of how do I collect everything as fast as I freaking can. As such, a type that's meant to be bad, like Blues, don't really fit neatly into a ranking list. Like, are they good because they're required? Or are they bad because they do nothing else? Well, I think this whole conversation is blow hogwash and ultimately isn't making us better at video games. Blues, or any type for that matter, are at their best when the games properly utilize them to create interesting situations you need to route around if you want to be efficient. Whether they're a strong generalist or a weak specialist just adds to the variety and potential of the levels. Because of this, I think Pikmin 3 actually uses blue Pikmin really well. In mission mode. With story mode, blue Pikmin seem completely worthless. I mean, by the time you unlock them, you already have winged Pikmin, a type who can fly over water, and more. With infinite access to our flighty lads, the amount of blues you'll ever need to take in any given area is absolutely pitiful. It genuinely makes a lot of sense how people look at these guys and think they're kind of bad. When it comes to story mode, simply put, blue Pikmin are the biggest losers. But what I don't think anyone mentions is that in story mode, everyone's the biggest loser. And that's entirely because of the game's linearity and forced backtracking. Forced backtracking has always had a muddied history in many games, but Pikmin is usually pretty good about it. 1 and 4 don't have any forced backtracking. Pikmin 2, I'll talk about another day? Oh, Pikmin 3. Oh, Pikmin 3. Where do I even begin? Well, I guess blues. Blue Pikmin are the final type you find yet again. Except here, that means being discovered directly before the game's finished. Combine this with progress being tied to defeating bosses instead of collecting fruits, and a vast majority of Pikmin 3 has to completely exclude water from progression. But then they submerge a bunch of random fruits just to give blue some sort of use. Now you're forced to revisit each major area. And this is the only time you actually get to use blues. The part of the game where all the shortcuts are built, all the bosses are defeated, and all that's left to do is to gather the remaining fruits. A task made far easier by the fact that all the shortcuts are built. I was able to collect every fruit in the Twilight River in half the day, moving with exclusively Go Here. Plus, with fruits being as light as they are, you basically don't need any blues to do what is needed. The citrus lump weighs 5, the portable sunset weighs 8, and the only obstacle in the entire game that benefits from a decent number is the shaggy long legs and distant tundra. Their balancing act just goes away. Or at least it would have if electric gates didn't exist. It's like the blues are passing on the torch to the yellows, before they both light on fire. With these limited uses, winged Pikmin are just a Cupid's grenade on top. The already small amount of water-related tasks now have another, better answer. Winged Pikmin can out-water blues. But they also out-combat reds and out-height yellows. Heck, the only thing rock Pikmin have on them is crystal smashing. So no, blue Pikmin aren't bad because winged Pikmin are good. Every Pikmin is bad because winged Pikmin are good. They're an oppressive force of nature in story mode, the single solution to every problem that doesn't literally require something else. Jack of all trades, master of everything. Except breaking electric gates. Add in the forced backtracking and now, why would you ever use an early game type for an obstacle you can just do faster later? Blues aren't any more outclassed than reds, yellows, and rocks. They're just outclassed on arrival, straight into a world that wasn't designed for them. So to me, a lot of the problems with blues are just problems with story mode. The basic type that remains functionally identical to its previous iterations is suddenly singled out as being worse than it's ever been. And it's all because story mode views them as an afterthought. It falls back on forced backtracking to give the type uses, but doesn't even give good uses for the type. And by incorporating forced backtracking in the first place, the most late game type in the series suddenly becomes the ruler of everything. If story mode was just structured differently, if blues were discovered earlier, then areas could use water for more than just an impassable hazard. If there was no forced backtracking, then everyone's early game would be more impactful. But that isn't Pikmin 3. Pikmin 3 has story mode, and in story mode, reds become irrelevant, blues are an afterthought, and the ability to fly reigns supreme. But despite all this, it's Pikmin 3. Holy frick, I love Pikmin 3. Even with its flaws, it's such a great little game, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Okay, that's a lie, but at least it has the Garden of Hope, where the forced backtracking isn't bad because an entire second half of the stage opens up. It's the one time in the game where you have to build shortcuts, fight the boss, and collect every fruit simultaneously. A brutal challenge to do in a single day. Without glitches, of course. And even though winged Pikmin are still the best type, every Pikmin gets its time to shine here, and it stands out as my favorite part of the game. I just wish there were more moments like it. I have a lot more I could say about story mode, but this isn't the time for that. This is a time to celebrate blue Pikmin, because despite what everyone says, they're still really freaking good in this game. No type is ever bad, just outclassed by better options. Story mode is just an environment where you get to pull out the best option at all times. But when we shift our focus to a mode that inherently limits your options, to where it just gives you stuff and you gotta make do with what you have, well, there's a reason mission mode continues to be peak. And blues have a lot more going on than you'd think. First off, they are the best bomb rock users. Give them all of your dynamite. They're the only Pikmin that can be thrown in and out of water, and outside of a few hyper-specific situations, nobody else has a bomb-based advantage. There's little reason to give them to the other types, especially since it's difficult to swap between your different bomb rock Pikmin. In a way, it's like yellows are passing on the Secondly, they swim now? They swim now! And holy frick do they swim. Well, they might have lost their ability to lifeguard. Blues are a menace underwater. Of course, you don't really get to use it too often, and water dumples in this game are seriously on something else. But throw a handful of blues at a school of puckering Blinos or unfortunate Spuddlefish, and they're not coming home to the family. Thirdly, blues aren't irrelevant because of winged. That's entirely a story mode issue. In mission mode, this doesn't even have a chance to matter. Of the 7 collect treasure stages blues are in, only 2 of them are alongside winged Pikmin. And one of these is the Fortress of Festivity, where water is limited anyway, so blues literally fall alongside reds as just being basic filler. Which is their point. You get 5 of them. And while winged do completely beat out blues in Shaded Garden Remix, well, something mission mode, limited number of Pikmin. You gotta use what you got. That's the challenge. Heck, it's arguable yellows are your worst type here, but that doesn't mean you're not going to use them either. Blues fulfill all the roles they could fill in this mode. Unique shortcuts no other types get? You got it. Required in substantial amounts? Plenty of those. Just a basic type used to fill out your army? You better believe it. Heck, Beastly Caverns even goes for the balancing act. Mission mode naturally limits this dynamic due to pre-picking your army for each stage, but here you begin with minimal reds, minimal blues, and gotta prepare before heading down into the cave. It's so cool seeing them try to reach a Pikmin 2-esque middle ground, the Pikmin 2S stage. You know, ignoring 3 Deluxe's halved enemy HP, which suddenly makes reds irrelevant here. But hey, that's just another victory for the blues. Speaking of combat, when it comes to battle enemies, blues appear in a total of 11 stages. Holy frick, that's nearly all of them. Yeah, they're used here for exactly what you'd expect. Enemies in water, more of the balancing act, and general basicness. I'm a really big fan of how they're using the Formidable Oak remix because it's filled to the brim with all kinds of Bulborbs. And you start with 10 blues. This is a terrible idea. Thankfully, you can find bomb rocks or candy pot buds scattered around to strengthen your army. That's so cool! And when it does come to combat, well, they're a basic type, not a bad type. They're consistently useful and constantly powerful. And even though they do share plenty of stages with winged Pikmin here, it's kind of amazing what limiting their access to Spicy Spray does. Now there's a really neat dynamic where blues naturally deal double damage, but winged Pikmin shred with the proper preparation. And even when Spicy Spray is involved, blues are still the only type that can be grabbed and thrown when standing in water. This gives them a ton of unique situations to be useful, such as being used alongside winged Pikmin for fighting this orange Bulborb, or the fact that, again, they are the best candidate for bombs. There are so many bombs in these stages, blues will consistently find opportunities to create havoc. And like, no other type, not even winged, can blow up fish. So if you really think about it, why bother using anyone else? At the end of the day, sure, winged Pikmin rain on blues' parade. But blues thrive in the rain. They're basic. They're technically bad, but that's what they live for. I've always felt that people call them the worst type in the series because story mode, the literal defining experience for a vast majority of players, is just not an experience designed for blue Pikmin. But it's also not an experience designed for any of you. It's a winged Pikmin world out there. And while I dearly wish story mode was better, blues, and really every type, get so many cool, fun, and interesting uses in the side modes. Side modes that directly impacted the way the next game was designed. And despite adding the 3 type limit and even more ways to deal with water, Pikmin 4 honestly uses blue Pikmin the best out of any game in the series. So far. Winged Pikmin continue to carry over water. Ice Pikmin allow any Pikmin to carry over water. Glow Pikmin can go in water. And Ochi genuinely doesn't care. Mix this with a 3 type limit, and when it's a decision between required McBasic Pants over here and literally anything else, why would you ever take the blues? Because the required McBasic Pants, and I love them for that. Blue Pikmin once again fulfill their taking up space role, but now it's extreme. We still have the usual balancing act for when you have to use blues, but thanks to the 3 type limit, blues taking up space is far more impactful than ever before. So to make up for this, Pikmin 4 also offers plenty of methods to completely bypass using them. This can be best seen in the 7 Ks with water because, how many of these really need blue Pikmin? The answer is 2, and it's the exact 2 you're thinking of. Ice Pikmin can freeze shortcuts in Kingdom of Beasts. It only takes 5 Glow Pikmin to collect all the water treasures in Sub-Zero Sauna. And believe it or not, the Doppelganger's Den is a winged Pikmin cave. So other than a seafloor resort in Engulf Castle, you're far better off leaving your blues behind and taking whatever else you think would work. And honestly, that's awesome. Sure, blue Pikmin get less opportunities to be useful, but I think it's good you get rewarded for circumventing the most basic type in the game. One of the most common criticisms I've heard of Pikmin 4 are its type recommendations, and how areas being designed around only a handful of types makes experimentation feel kind of worthless. And while I completely agree the recommendations are terrible, why does it auto-select my types for me? If you take a step back and really think about why recommended types are even recommended, the entire game changes in a wonderful way. For example, Rock Pikmin are recommended in the Hero's Hideaway. Any guesses as to why? Scutterchucks. There's a few other spots they're great in, but I believe they're recommended because of Scutterchucks. And are you really going to let Scutterchucks stop you from using purples? I didn't think so. Areas are designed around only a handful of types, that much is true. But it's more than just the 3 types listed at the top of the screen. So when building your own army from scratch, blue Pikmin fulfill a really neat role of being the type to circumvent. The number 1 option you want to get rid of. And sure, if this was their sole purpose, then that'd be sad. But it's not. That's just the caves. Meanwhile, the overworlds are ripe with blue Pikmin uses. And whether it's in the Blossoming Arcadia, Serene Shores, or the Giant's Hearth, blues are relevant, all because they're not the last type you discover anymore. Let's pluck and go! Blues are first discovered at the end of the Sunspeckled Terrace, and while there's plenty of ways to grab their onion, my personal go-to involves accessing it near the Olimar battle, and initiating your duel when the onion's carried near this ledge. Once you sweep the floor with him and do whatever else you need, work your way over to the planter, use Ice Pikmin to freeze the water, ram it off the ledge with Ochi, and have him carry it back to base. Note, you do need at least level 3 buff for this, but once the onion's in, you'll have blues, and you're not even in the second area. This is kind of awesome. And once we make it to the Blossoming Arcadia, mwah, amazing level. Your type diversity is low here, so it's all about figuring out which types you don't need, mostly to make room for a combat Pikmin. And most of the time, you really don't need blues. There's not a ton of water here. The big puddle in the middle only has 2 things to grab, and there's a sprinkler off to the side that can also just be deactivated by any type. But while blue uses seem minimal, the next area on our list is the Serene Shores, the most blue Pikmin area to have ever blued. So if you want to ignore them, go right ahead. but this is your opportunity to grow their numbers, which requires using them, which means they take up a type slot. Holy frick, we're in business. Heading into Serene Shores, hopefully with a solid number of blues, it's finally time to see them in action, where they get to be proper side grades to both Oatchi and Ice Pikmin. Oatchi, with Doggy Paddle level 3, is capable of doing his own underwater tasks. Note, Oatchi only learned to swim a few days after drowning, so when aiming for minimum day completion, it's absurdly important to drown him as a child. Otherwise, he can't swim in Blossomy Arcadia, and his swimming can't be upgraded by Serene Shores. But at max level, while he can do stuff underwater, Oatchi, being Oatchi, falls for the classic Oatchi clause. He's just one pup. Don't make him do this. And Ice Pikmin? Well, despite the area recommending both blues and ice, the ways they deal with water are mutually exclusive. If you freeze it, you don't need to be immune to it. If you're immune to it, you don't need to freeze it. And no matter which one you pick, it's a perfect opportunity to free up another type slot. Oh frick, I forgot about this Hydro Jelly. Well, I guess you still need Ice Pikmin after. Wrong! Ice Blast! Blues aren't the only type that can be circumvented, you know. But hey, that's if you even want to ignore Ice Pikmin. Heck, half the time you can still ignore blues. With the tide lowering halfway through the day and the areas by the engulfed and sandcastles being generally water-free, there's plenty of ways to go about your route. But thanks to the Seafloor Resort, Engulf Castle, and the literal ocean, you're still massively rewarded for bringing an ample supply of the type. Not to mention, with your speedy onions and new cave around every corner, you have plenty of opportunities to completely reconstitute your army at minimal time loss. All of these mechanics and ideas culminate into a stage that rewards you for both raising and working around blue Pikmin at the same time. A stage that actually encourages planning between areas, a dynamic mission mode could never achieve. A stage that adds a new layer of decision making to the most basic type, all the while retaining the positive traits of their basicness. Serene Shores is a freaking amazing stage, and it's why I believe Pikmin 4 uses blues the best of all the games. That's not to discredit Giant Hearth's giant sprinklers though. The area that gives reds one last hurrah also doubles as blues' final time to shine, and it does this by incorporating everything Serene Shores established. From water puddles with multiple solutions to clay valves that full on requires blues, figuring out when you should and shouldn't use the type remains a core principle for efficiently clearing the stage. I could go on about blues in more detail, but I'm sure you've got the point by now. But blue Pikmin are just so cool in this game because they function with the 3 type limit, combining its restrictions with their basicness to create something completely new. And unlike Pikmin 3, they remain relevant despite being outclassed. I'm proud of you guys, genuinely. No matter how many people claim you're bad, how many people believe you need a serious buff, rest easy with the fact that, what the frick? Wait. Louie, I know that was you. Don't you dare stick your hand in his mouth. Oh, frick. Somebody's gotta do something about this. It's almost lunchtime though, and I really don't want to disrupt my meal. Wait, do you hear that? What are you doing? You just crashed into the ship! What are we going to do now? Okay, before we all drown, okay, maybe not all of us, let's take our last moments to recount what I've talked about. Pikmin types aren't designed equally. You'd be stupid to call purples from 2, wing from 3, or ice from 4 anything less than the best freaking types in their game. And while that could leave something like blues in the dust, these games are designed for Dandori. It is their #1 priority to make sure every type gets an opportunity to create fun and interesting optimization challenges, and blues are the perfect embodiment of that idea. Sure, they're not good, they're only required. But by being required, they managed to create some of the most iconic moments in the entire series. By being bad, they managed to make all their uses more memorable. And by being simple, they managed to add depth without ever making things complicated. Because at the end of the day, whenever there's water, you use blue Pikmin. I probably should have expected this outcome, all things considered, but you know what? Just waiting for the ship to go down itself is inoptimal, Dandori. And judging from what's down there, this should be fun.